Hello and welcome to another episode of It Came From the Page. First off, gotta thank CriminOLLY for the tag. Thank you, CriminOLLY. I've never actually been officially tagged in a video for tag videos. I also want to thank MJ Reeds, who I've been meaning to thank for the last 3 to 4 videos that I've recorded, but I keep forgetting. And she very nicely tagged me in one of her videos on small booktubers that you should follow. So that actually got me quite a few new followers. And I appreciate that a lot. So thank you, CriminOLLY. Thank you, MG Reeds. And thank you, Pax Panic, for this amazing tag. Yes, that's right. I'm actually doing a tag video on a Tuesday. Proper syntax for tagging. Because Tag Wednesday does not sound as good as Tag Tuesday. So there you go. Let's get into it. Yeah, so like I said, this is a new tag. It's called the Panic Tag, done by the always lovely Pax Panic, who's one of the very nicest and most supportive people on this website. So thank you, Pax, for all your support, and also thank you for this cool tag. So this tag is very much focused on various phobias and getting books associated with those phobias. Let's get into it. The first question is called Arachnophobia, which of course, fear of the Spideys. Name a book with a ton of characters. Now, there's a few things that I could have done for this. I was thinking about The Stand, because The Stand has the most amount of characters that I can name, which I think is always very important when you're talking about a book with a lot of characters. And I thought it would be good to talk about a book with a lot of characters that you like and are good. But, you know, The Stand is pretty classic. I do like the idea that at one point Stephen King said he had writer's block and didn't know what to do because he had so many characters, and he chose to kill a bunch of them off in a specific scene. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but that's a book that has notoriously too many characters for even the writer to balance. But another book that has too many characters for the writer to balance is George R.R. Martin's third book in the Game of Thrones franchise, Storm of Swords. Storm of Swords sets up so many characters that the next 2 books, which are, I think combined, they're about 2,000 pages, take place at the exact same time in the storyline, but are split up because there are too many characters to balance. So Storm of Swords does really get the award for having the most characters because it sets up so many storylines that it takes 2 books set at the exact same time to satisfyingly try to continue / wrap them up. Also, I thought that it would be important to specifically choose Game of Thrones, and no spoilers for Game of Thrones. I know CriminOLLY, for example, is going through the show, but a lot of characters, a lot of my favorite characters from Storm of Swords did not make it into the adaptation. So the show cuts out a whole bunch of characters for very understandable reasons and really tries to simplify the plot, which works out really well in early seasons and I think does get them in a lot of trouble as farther you go into their seasons, because they will choose to eliminate a character and then try to figure out how to compensate for that elimination later in the show. But for that first 5 seasons, it's just really, really great television, so I understand why they cut out certain characters and did what they did. But some of my favorite characters in Game of Thrones, like the Bloody Murmurs, who appear in like a scene in season 2. Like I think they are in a scene in season 2, but they don't have any of the characterization that they do in the book. And a character that does not appear, at least not to my knowledge, was Lem Lemoncloak, who is another one who's like associated with the Bloody Murmurs, and that like those Lem Lemoncloak and the Bloody Murmurs are kind of like fighting in this little area that is being kind of ravaged by the war going on in Game of Thrones, and there's these 2 little factions that are kind of like fighting in this area and trying to either protect people or like do vengeance and all of the complexities of war. And I think that's one of the things that I like the most about Game of Thrones is, especially in those later books, that you really get to see the consequences of all these wars that have happened and all these fractured alliances and all of these stuff that has just made everyone not be trustworthy of each other. All the supply lines are messed up. And I really do think one of the things that I just love about the books is that it goes into all these details about these specific locations and regions of Game of Thrones. Now, the problem is, I think why this book and this series really does have too many characters is because George R. R. Martin just can't finish the books. And no shade, I have not written a single book, right? So I'm not doing any shade towards George R. R. Martin, but I do think that the sheer amount of characters in this series makes it so that this entire storyline is very untenable and very hard to finish off. And I think that's why he's having a lot of difficulty finishing the book. But yeah, so I chose Game of Thrones, and specifically Storm of Swords, just because it has characters that I really like, and it mentions another one of my favorite characters that gets removed, which is Victorian Greyjoy, who is referenced in like a line in Storm of Swords, but he appears more in Feast of Crows. But I really like that character, and I was like, oh, this is some Bloody Murmur stuff, which I love, and this one also has Lem Lemoncloak, who I love, and of course has that brief mention of Victorian Greyjoy, which is my favorite of the Greyjoys that was completely cut out of the show. Anyways, that's enough about Game of Thrones. Our next one is Coloradophobia, which is fear of clowns, and that's name a book with a ridiculous/funny scene. I gotta go with Count Dracula's Canadian Affair. I feel bad for choosing this book because none of you have read it, none of you will read it. It's incredibly hard to track down. If you have a copy, I would be amazed. One of the rarest books I own. Maybe I might work on digitizing this to share it because it is very funny to read. But this is one of those books where the ending is so ridiculous when you think about it. Minor spoilers for Count Dracula's Canadian Affair. See the timeline up above my head that will tell you when my ranting on this ends if you don't want to be spoiled. But the ending of this book, we find out that Dracula has just been living on an island in a Canadian lake. No house, no nothing. Count Dracula has been living on an island. He's been dressing up as old soldiers that he like kidnapped and killed and then took their outfit to like do all of his stuff. But like Dracula he's just living in a cave on an island. Like he's not doing nothing. And you're like, what? This is ridiculous. Like, it's so ridiculous because, like, when you think about it, it's one of the things that you laugh a lot when you sit down and go, wait, this book just had Dracula living on an island, dressing up as a U.S. soldier for no reason, and being like, hey, ladies, let's dance. Like, he just, like, hangs out and, like, tries to swoon this one lady on this one, like, the shore of this lake, and he lives in the middle of it on an island. No house, no nothing, in a cave. And you're like, how did Dracula get there? Why is Dracula there? Like, why did he end up in the middle of a Canadian lake? What is going on? And it's hilarious. It's one of those things where it's almost like you could call some of this stuff a plot hole, but it's actually just hilarious because I don't think you could come up with a good reason why Dracula has, for some reason, ended up on a small lake in Canada. No reason. No, I have no idea. But that's Coulrophobia, the fear of clowns. Acrophobia, fear of heights. Name a book that changed your view. Now, I chose a lot of books for this, but I'm going to go through most of them quickly. I've already talked about Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, and then The Great Mortality. Both books, which you'll see the covers here, are books that I think do have a very specific and meaningful change in how I personally saw the world, see history, and really do make a big impact in that regard. But I did talk about that when I was talking about my nonfiction reads a few months back. So instead, I'm just going to go through a few. The one that I think changed my view, but not in the way that it was written to change your view, is I read Mindhunters by John Douglas. And my takeaway from that book is, maybe we shouldn't respect the FBI because these guys seem like major douches. John Douglas sounds like an asshole. And I don't respect him after reading this book. And a lot of the book is like, you should respect me. And I'm like, nah, dude, I don't respect you. But anyways, that was just my opinion on John Douglas. Some stuff that changed my views in a good way. Scary Movies by A.S. Mott. This is a book that I have owned off and on since I was a kid. I owned it when I was like probably about 13, lost it, spent years and years trying to find another copy, and eventually did end up finding another copy. In the internet age, I would have been able to find it super easily, but I was not buying online when I was younger. So this is one of the things that is the reason why I love the horror genre in general. Helped me get over my fear of specific horror movies that as a kid were like gripping me in fear. Like I couldn't have an open window because I thought Michael Myers would be like staring at me through an open window. And I was deathly afraid of horror as a genre. And half the reason why this channel exists and how my obsession with horror as a genre exists is because I bought this book by A.S. Mott, and it goes into a lot of behind the scenes stories and a lot of making of and a lot of recommendations for other horror movies as well. So once it helped me deconstruct my fear of a lot of these. It also helped me get introduced to a lot of stories and movies that I would have never picked up if I hadn't read this book. So if I don't know if you are someone who's like pretty well versed in the genre, how much this book would have an impact on you, or this book only has a huge impact on me because of when it was released and how I came across it. Because I would assume that a lot of the behind the scenes information are available elsewhere, but I do think A.S. Mott has a really good writing style, and I do really like the way that he introduces a lot of these materials. So that is my book that changed my mind. Also, brief mention of Marvel, The Untold Stories by Sean Howe. It changed my mind because I realized that Mario Puzo and Stan Lee used to have similar offices, and Mario Puzo would make fun of Stan Lee for making comic books, and I thought that was the most hilarious anecdote of all time. So it changed my views, and now that every time I think of The Godfather by Mario Puzo, I also think of him just making fun of Stan Lee, which is hilarious. Trypophobia, fear of holes. Name a book with a plot hole. Now again, I was kind of almost tempted to do Count Dracula's Canadian Affair, but this is another recent read, which is Extraterrestrial by Julian Schock. Julian Schock is a pseudonym for J.N. Williamson, and I think the only reason there's a pseudonym in this book is because it introduces a lot of his contemporaries. The basic plot of this book, which is terrible, it's a bad book. I really had a good time with it, but it's objectively a terrible book. But the plot of the book is that these aliens come down. So the aliens come down. This is going to be full of plot spoilers, by the way. Again, see the little thing up here to the end of spoilers, but you're not going to read this. You don't want to read this. It's bad. It's bad. Maybe I'll act out a one-man play that'll be funny, because that would be better than reading this book. But anyways, the plot is a bunch of famous writers from television, from movies, from all types of genres have found their way to this abandoned hotel because they're all going to be given awards. Turns out they're going to be given awards by a bunch of aliens. And you're like, whoa! And so for a while, this book is characters getting what you think is picked off one by one by like aliens. So like there'll be like an aside and it'll be like, this guy was a screenwriter and he could only write naked and he's typing on his typewriter. And I was like, oh my, okay, this naked guy, okay, what's going on here? And then the aliens show up and kill him in a stupid, silly way. And then the plot holes start coming and they keep coming, fall to the ground, and they hit the ground running. I don't know why I suddenly started to do All-Star there, but you're welcome. It's because we find out the end of this book, the aliens come from a society where nobody has died in like a bajillion years. And they can all read each other's minds, okay? So the only people whose minds cannot be read are the people who are in power. So whenever you get elected to whatever their system of government is, you have these like little mind blockers, so no one can read your brains anymore, okay? So they can do whatever they want, they can think freely because everyone else shares all of their emotions all the time. But the aliens in this book that are sent to get on all these people in the hotel are actually psychopaths, and apparently because they are psychopath aliens, they're not allowed to mingle with society, but they no longer have the death penalty, which, again, that's weird. But I guess they don't have prisons either, but, like, apparently this book is like, you should just murder psychopaths, but I don't really know. J.N. Williamson, that's weird. I don't know why the aliens didn't just have alien prisons, or, like, I don't know, alien business school, because, like, a lot of psychopaths do really good in business. You just, alien business. Make them an alien entrepreneur. Anyways, they get exiled from their planet because they don't play well with other people on the planet. But they work for the government, and the government is like, yo, go to this planet, and the planet is Earth. And they are our sister planet. We don't know why, but they're the sister planet of these aliens' planet. So they go to Earth, and they have to find people who represent political opponents, like who are like the opposites of the political opponents on their worlds. And what they have to do is they have to take their brains and go, and then when they do the thing, when they go, and they change their minds, they change the minds of the sister planet as well. And I'm like, what the fuck? So their plan is to come, change the minds of people on Earth so that simultaneously changes the minds of the political opponents. And apparently what they have to do is it's like the opposite. It's like the mirror world. So like they have to make everyone on our planet batshit crazy. And that's why we have problems with crime, because these aliens have been showing up and being like, and making everyone criminal, evil misdemeanors, so that the people on their planet are like super complacent and like super like, wow, we love the government. The government is great. Wow. And I don't know if that implies that like all the cool people on Earth who are committing crimes are like, there's like the evil criminals of their world. I don't know. This book is dumb and stupid. But we find out that these psychopaths have to do that. But the plot hole is like, if these aliens haven't died for a bajillion years, what the fuck? So, like, how does this work? And then they also say that they have given our government systems, the American government systems, similar technology so that they can go out and they can go to their sister planet, which is not their planet. Earth has another sister planet that they go to change the minds of people on our planet. So they do the same thing there. But it makes no sense, because that would just create a ricochet effect, where if they go to here and they change Bob on planet Zerticulon 7, and then Bob's brain is like now like, ooh, I like chicken, and then that makes the person on Earth not like chicken anymore, because his Bob likes chicken, so he don't like chicken. But then Bob not like a chicken anymore would make the planet on the aliens' planet start liking chicken. So, right? It's really stupid. It's dumb. It makes no sense. And then we find out that these aliens have captured themselves, because our main characters are mirrors of the psychopathic aliens, so they're supposed to go like shoot them, and then when they shoot them, they're actually going to kill themselves. Okay, which again, that sistering effect makes it make no sense, because no one on their planet has died for a bajillion years. So if no one on their planet has died for a bajillion years, we all die. I don't know if J.N. Williamson knows this, but humans die. We die in like 100 years. So if our sister, if Bob, who doesn't like chicken anymore, Bob dies, then shouldn't that kill Bob, who loves chicken, on these aliens' planets? Shouldn't it? So how is no one dying if their sisters are humans and we're big old flesh puppets who die super common? It makes no sense, J.N. Williamson. That's why you did Julian Shock? Because you made a book that made no sense? Next. Mysophobia, fear of germs. Name a book with the best symptoms/infection. Cujo by Stephen King. I would just really like how sad it is when the rabies takes poor baby Cujo over, and the way that he deals with the infection, and like he's fighting against the infection, and he's like, I will not kill the boy, and he doesn't kill a boy. And then he does some other stuff which results in a bunch of deaths, but he doesn't kill the boy he loves, because He's still early in the rabies infection, and you're like, oh, I'm crying. And also Alien Prototype, where in Alien Prototype, there is the xenomorph is infected with necrosis. So every time the xenomorph like gets near a person, they dissolve, and it's gory, and it's disturbing, and it's gross, and you're like, oh god. So like you just watch people like dissolve, and like the idea of this like infectious necrosis like going around the space station. So someone gets infected, they just look at their hand, and they watch their hand just like slowly dissolve, and like it's so gross, and you're like, ah. It scared me. It was scary. That's a pretty good book. I like Alien Prototype. So there you go. That's your recommendation of Alien. Astraphobia. Fear of lightning/thunder. Name a book that hits you hard. My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. This book hit me hard because I was kind of not expecting it to hit me hard. I thought that I had a really good lay of the land about how this book was going to go down, what this book was about, how this book was... and I was very wrong in my assumptions and the way that I thought everything was going. I was so involved in the character's own life that I did not recognize the clear signs that everyone else was realizing that weren't her, which might have happened in her past, because I was so much in the mind of the main character that I was like, no, these people are just putting on things that aren't there. Like, I believe this character when she says that this didn't happen to her. And then there's like a reveal, and the reveal not only enlightens everything about the character, but it also really makes all of her reactions and her interactions with people make a lot more sense if you go back to think about how she was acting, what she was doing, how everything kind of came together. And it hit me hard. Like, I think I was like a teary mess at the end of that book, because it was a emotional and very strong ending, especially if you weren't expecting it, like I was, because I'm a big dum-dum and I didn't think about unreliable narrators, which is the thing that happens all the time in fiction and life and everything else. So I don't know why I didn't just pick up on it right away. The signs are there. It's woven in really well, and it also is a reveal that paints the entire book in a new light in a way that I think was very effective, and I'm very interested to read the next 2 books in this trilogy. Even though I think that it would have worked just fine as a solo book, Stephen Graham Jones got me, so I'll read the rest of it. I'll read the other 2. I'm into it. Enochlophobia. Fear of crowds. I hate crowds. If I see crowds, I walk away. Name a book with a place/group of people you hated. 2 books on this. You would think that these would mostly be vintage books, because let me tell you, no book has more unlikable characters on average than old vintage horror, because almost every vintage horror book has like some dude who you're like, oh, I just hope the dogs eat your brains, you're dumb and you're stupid. So you kind of expect it when you go back to vintage horror, because like, you know, a lot of protagonists in vintage horror books are kind of scumbags and you don't really like them that much. But these are modern books. One, The Shuddering. Did not like the characters in The Shuddering. The Shuddering is not a bad book, and it's written by Anaya Alborn, and it's a good book. It's not bad. It's kind of like a. It's hard to explain. It's like a creature feature in a way, and a bunch of creatures like attack a bunch of people who are living in a cabin. I just did not like these characters very much. I was like, ugh, these guys are annoying. So I was really happy when they got eaten, which was bad when you were supposed to be emotional. I think by the time we were supposed to be emotional, I was finally like, all right. I hope you survive. Okay, guy, you're a little bit likable. And also the other book, Clown in a Cornfield, which again is not a bad book. It's a pretty fun book. I used to watch Adam Caesar videos all the time. I still watch occasional Adam Caesar videos. He just doesn't do YouTube videos as much. So I was introduced to him as a YouTuber before I was introduced to him as a writer. So I think this might have been my first Adam Caesar book. I would definitely want to be interested in more. And the reason why I didn't like this book is mainly because I think it does a really good portrayal of young people today, and I just can't get into the slang terms that the modern that modern Gen Z people use, and the way that it's all about social media and all that stuff, and I'm always like, ugh, social media, ugh. I'm a person who's bad at Discord. I'm even bad at Discord, so it's no surprise that me and social media we don't get along too well, but the other thing about these characters is there's some anti-cat bias in this book. Our main character, you're supposed to like this character, and she's all like, oh, I'm sure there's a bookstore in town, and she's like, it looks like the kind of bookstore that only has old mysteries with cats on the cover. What trite, what garbage. And I'm like, what are you saying? If a mystery has a cat on the cover, it's a good mystery. Read that book. What's this cat stuff? And then they go to then they move into their new place, and apparently it smells like cat pee, and they're like, oh, some stupid lady had a bunch of cats in here last time, and ugh, stupid cats, they make everything bad and they smell. And I'm like, excuse me, sir? Me and my cats do not want to read this anti-cat propaganda. Isn't that right, Nami? Right? We do not like anti-cat propaganda in our books. So I was like, I don't like you, main character. But she has, a good arc. And also some of the characters who I really don't like, when the survival elements start, I really get into it. And it's funny because the entire point of the book is about how people are very unfair and are mean to the modern generation. So the point of the book is hey, you should chill out. Kids are kids. Let kids be kids. This generation is really not that different from any other generations. The problems are yours, not them, which is very true. And I think it really works by the end of the book. And I think making some of those characters not immediately likable does make that a little bit stronger. When you get into that, when it's okay, are you one of the villains in this book? Because it sounds like you're one of the villains in this book. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I would never do the terrible things that they do in the book. The villains do in the book. But, me, I was like, I don't like you, kids. And then it's you should be nicer to the children. And I was like, okay, Adam. Okay. And by the end of the book, I did end up liking all of the characters as they are after they go through this experience. I think it was just going up to that point of of Gen Z talk and Gen Z terms and getting all the likes and how social media is an aspect for the modern children. And I think just me instinctively is ugh, social media. Ugh. It's I'm Dracula, but if you show me a TikTok, I go, and have to fly away because TikToks scare me. Anyways, that's my video. Thank you, Pax. And I will have her video in the show notes. And if you want to do this tag, you know what I would say? Do it. I don't want to just tag random people, but also because I think probably the people, if I was going to tag, I would probably tag Pax, and Pax made this. I was going to tag CriminOLLY, but then CriminOLLY tagged me. Maybe I would have tagged MJ Reeds, but MJ Reeds was tagged by CriminOLLY. Maybe I was going to change Michael Game Up. Anyways, what I'm saying is most of the people I know have been tagged. Maybe one for Plagued by Visions. I know you're on a vacation right now, so maybe you won't see this until 1700,000 ADD, which was after Double Death. Anyways, that's a whole nother story. Have a good day. Bye. Say goodbye, Nami. Goodbye, human beings. I am God. I make the world better, not worse. I'm super cute. Yeah, you're right.